Let's welcome for MSP Maturity Model Survey presentation by our dignitaries as follows, starting with Mr. Sandip Kumar Panda, founder and CEO, Instasafe, and of course, Mr. Sanjay Mohapatra, editor, Ascent Info Media Publications. Let's welcome our dignitaries here on stage with a round of applause, please. Wonderful,
Sure.
Wonderful.
Good evening,
Everybody,
ladies.
round of applause for both of them.
Yeah. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So I'll just tell you a couple of weeks back, when Sanjay was planning this, a couple of months back rather, Sanjay was planning the whole MSP thing. At Instasafe, I'm the founder and CEO at Instasafe. We are a security, zero trust network access product company. One of the things that we were chatting up was, hey, across the globe and largely in the North America, managed service providers are a very sustainable and proven business model. Then the question came up, that's what's happening in India. Literally, I had no clue, and a lot of my dear friends here, I know have been in business for a very long time, and they're known with various names. Resellers, value-added resellers, system integrators, national system integrators, regional system integrators, and the list goes on and on and on. We try to understand, okay, what's happening, and then Sanjay, thanks to him, right? He said, okay, let's go ahead and build some survey. And while we're building the survey, I myself learned a lot about this market, and I thought we'll just together share with you, right, Sanjay?
Yes.
And then today, we also want to take some insights from you. And this is the first survey that Sanjay is doing, right?
First survey, exactly. Yeah. So you can, this handbook is there on the table. You can check. Some part is there, and we have gone deep. Some of the more facts and figures you will find out here on the display itself. So, Sandip, actually, if you look at, we asked many, MSP concept, as you said, that US and...
I've got a slide for it. Yeah. I'll just say, what is an MSP, right? Managed Service Provider. Yes, Sanjay.
Right. So you can see this managed service provider.
Okay, let me just read that for you. I'll read the slides.
I'll explain that.
Yeah. So a managed service provider is a third-party company that provides remotely manages the customer's information technology infrastructure and end-user systems, right? So here we are not referring to the global system integrators like a large, a large TCS or a Wipro. We are just talking about those companies which manage small businesses and largely in the mature markets. So how many of you here would qualify as at least a 50% MSP, where you somehow remotely manage your end customers' infrastructure, right? I know Team Computers there does it. They've been the pioneers there. So what we're realizing is a small percentage of the market is actually remotely managing, while a lot of them are actually going physically, meeting customers and having people deployed there. But the whole concept of remote has not yet as much been popular in India as yet, right, Sanjay?
Absolutely.
Right. So this is for small and medium-sized businesses, and these services include a plethora of services which we will cover here, right? So when Sanjay was building this whole MSP maturity model, and we thought, what's happening here? While it is proven in the mature markets and in Asia Pacific and Australia and others, India has still not seen the wave of MSPs, right? So that's where we felt, what is a typical pure play MSP profile? So if you see here, I would say the typical MSP has 50% revenue coming from managed services, and this is a global research, this is not India data. Has 50% revenue coming from managed services, has average customer size between 100 to 250 endpoints, and typically the endpoints per technology is between 250 to 750, right? Per technology could be remote infrastructure management, security, and things like that. And then on the business model, we realized this is the large breadth. In fact, Canalys survey says there are about 331,000 companies around the world. So a massive spread of MSPs are spread across the globe, and largely in the Western Europe, Americas, and other parts of the mature economies. The market focus typically is between 50 to 100 users, surprisingly. It is not the 5,000 users, it's not the 10,000 users. Probably the class varies. They are called as technology service providers and things like that. And the people and skills, typically they're floating between 50 to 150. And they need specialized skills and certifications. So this is what we learned, typically between $1 to $10 million, probably 10 to 100 crores companies with margins of 25%, SMB and mid-market focused. And typically managing between 100 in that range plus or minus, right? So then we said, okay, what's the TAM and economics looking like? And I need some feedback here from folks who agree or disagree, because I am perceiving that this data will be contested, you know. So what we realize is, at least in the North America, getting up to $125 per user per month is a good deal. How many of you agree? In India, any idea how much would that be? $125 is approximately about $8,000-10,000. Is it possible? I don't think those numbers come in India, definitely not. But what's the number that you guys think would be realistic in India? 25,000 rupees per month? $20, okay. So typically, if you just take a thumb rule, anybody getting $100 in US will get about $30 in India, right? So that's a very typical thumb rule. So that's what they get. And what's interesting is getting to 250 is the holy grail. $250 per user per month. And that's where the whole specialization kicks in, the SOC, the NOC, and all of that, right? So this is the ceiling in the mature markets. If you look at India, I think it's leaking. If you look at India, obviously we just spoke about numbers like $20, $50 in that range. But let's understand what's the market like. Like I just did an analysis from the Zoom Info database. You know, just try to size the market, nothing else. More than 40,000 employees, there are about 76 companies or organizations in India. This data might not be perfect, but trying to understand what's the representative data from Zoom Info. 6,000 to 40,000 employees, about 416 organizations, and 2,000 to 6,000 employees, about 1,053, and less than 2,000 employees, about 6.44 lakhs. Massive, right? Now, how many of you believe that you know, this market actually is a market awaiting to be untapped? Because we haven't seen much of MSPs here. There is very little penetration of professional services automation tools. There is reasonable amount of RMM tools, that's how our survey says, but and then there are at least born in cloud vendors and things like that. But how many of you believe that the market is actually ripe? Or throw me some numbers. Or we are still a few years ahead, behind. Can somebody help with the mic, please, in the audience? This is where we need to understand, does India really have a market, or we are just hoping? That's a very interesting data point. And why do you say that, sir?
Because based on what is their appetite and the number of employees and what the benefit that will be very
Yes. So data pointed here was only about 500 organizations are ready, and we had a very interesting cybersecurity panel discussion early this afternoon, which spoke about profitability and unit economics, right? So
I just want to add one point. India still, we are coming out of the staffing market. कि मेरे को managed service चाहिए, but इतने बंदे भी चाहिए. Give me so many. I mean, what's the point? Like if you come to my hotel, you don't ask me how many people do you have in housekeeping, how many people do you have in the kitchen. You want a good experience, you know, you're paying per room or per night, room night. When you go, you don't check with the restaurant, how many waiters do you have. But I found that the mindset, both customers and our side, is more to sell people and skills. So skills people is what we are selling and not by seat. And this is the transition. So in terms of market which is mature, I don't think more than 500 companies, you know. So your largest, typically stock market darlings I have seen, you know, who are doing well on the stock market, they also understand managed services. And when they quote, and some of our customers, you know, they're great in their sector. And they are the ones who understand and they demand that we give them managed services. The rest of them, it becomes a khichdi.
Oh, absolutely right.
That's my experience.
No, makes sense. I think, by the way, Indian hospitals are probably the best managed in the world, right? So, in terms of the quality of experience. But what we see here is, of late, there has been a small segment of the market which is respecting time. Yeah.
Yeah, what we are seeing is rather than first convincing the customers, in this room there are, it's an MSP summit, you know, out of 100 people, only I would say 10 or 15 people have a managed SIM cloud, managed SOC services, you know. So first, the MSPs also have to invest in people, technology, processes. They have to hire security analysts, threat intelligence. So most of the MSPs don't have. And if you're not going to the market, the customer is not going to buy. And we are seeing a huge traction now for MSP services because the existing people are getting overwhelmed, customers, with the amount of tools and technology, and everything is going continuous now. So there is the shift is happening. If we don't ride the wave, we'll miss the opportunity.
No, definitely happening.
Yeah.
In fact, in our research, I could not actually conclude that would India even see a MSP market in mainstream. Probably it will jump to the technology service provider market because we are not that on-prem Microsoft management world. We have moved beyond to subscription-based, cloud-managed and things like that. But anyway, we'll cover that in our survey quickly. In the interest of time, we have to move. So the demography of survey. Sanjay, you want to cover this?
All right, the demography was that traditionally we cover more than 20 cities, but this time we prefer 20 major cities. And total number of organizations that we sent out, of course we sent out more than 4,000. I think we are dealing with, or we have got a database of 30,000 channel partners, but we filtered out and reached out to only 2,521, which is less as far as India growth is concerned. Because if you look at my, in the beginning of presentation, I mean the introduction, I was telling that US is a mature market and it has got 40,000 MSPs by I think 2020. Now look at India's growth, the percentage of growth, the GDP growth. So India typically should be 15% of US number, whereas that means how much? It should be around 5,000, 6,000 kind. But only we reached out to 2,521 people, and based on their feedback, we have designed this survey. I mean the result, Sandip.
Right. So here, Sanjay, you want to cover this? So we just ran a survey. You want to cover this? Yeah.
All right. So if you look at the RIM, the first question was about RIM, and the 40% I believe. RIM entirely in-house, which is a good number, good percentage.
So there is a section of the market which is actually using it, right? So we
Yeah.
had today Manage Engine as a brand there. I think nextly we just see, while the US stack is about ConnectWise, Dato, Kaseya, Enable and Ninja, there are very different class of players coming up. So that's an interesting observation.
This is the brand specific. We asked them in the questions which are the brands. Of course, we gave the choice that you need to pick, and there was also others. But then, if you can look at 50% was I think others, which is a mix. But majorly, you can see here 11.5%, which is Manage Engine, then followed by New Relic and 15% is Manage Engine, 11% is Microsoft, and rest you can see.
Right. We'll cover that, Sanjay, because in the interest of time, we need to move. There are quite a bit of questions. Then we saw about NOC, and then we realized that quite a few persons are running their own in-house, although working with brands and OEMs. If you look at some few NOC tools that are mentioned here, I know there's a combination there. It includes SOC also. And then if you look at what are the SOCs running house, SOC is a very interesting, at least in this audience, which Sanjay kind of researched. I know there are a lot of security partners here. So essentially, Sanjay, you want to interpret this? There is significant amount of people telling we run our SOC in-house.
Which is a encouraging information for me, for the industry, that people have started, to your question, people have already started adopting SOC or NOC in-house. But we do not have SOC, but we are exploring option now. So this is means people are now looking at that. They can realize the market is opening up, and they need to go. They understand the trend globally and India also. Now they are very much interested into going into having their own SOC system.
Right, Sanjay. Then we look at the SOC tools. There comes the standard names, CrowdStrike and Splunk and all of that. Then we looked at, as an MSP, which services do you currently provide? And I think this is a spread of spectrum.
I think this was expected. This endpoint detection and response, EDR, 8.7%. It was expected. I was expecting,
highest,
Sandip was also expecting that the answer will be the option will be around it. Maximum number of people must be opting for having services around endpoint, EDR kind of thing.
Right. And then we look at, which services do you currently provide to your customers? I think the largest segment came up. This is a pretty segmented security awareness training. Do you guys believe that that's really picking up in the market? Right. So that's something that's coming on the top. Looks like there's a lot of awareness need in the market. And then we said, how do you provide? And the answer was, obviously we partner with a brand, and that's natural because worldwide also we believe that MSSPs kind of partner with brands and to offer this. And obviously this is a question about what else do you provide? Pretty much self-explanatory. And then we said, what are the kind of security attacks? And this is interesting. Sanjay, you want to see what's like the highest?
Ransomware.
Yeah, it was discussed across the day-to-day ransomware. I think in the first
Email phishing and ransomware.
Yeah.
So both were the top of the priority, top of the concern of the organizations, then followed by data breach.
Right. And then came what's the biggest challenge, right? So this is the long laundry list of 14 data points that we see that customers are asking. Obviously, I do not see there is a plethora of brand options available. There are limited brand choices available. So, if anybody has anything interesting to share, would love to know. Looks like, and this was, well, in the morning I was speaking to somebody, and he said that, hey, you know what, I am just not looking for a white label solution, because why should I take the liability of the entire technology on me? I might as well go and partner with a co-branded, and that's where you see on point number 10, the brand equity coming up, right? So customers also realizing the need that can we even trust the services that we are going for. The biggest challenge, the number one came up at lack of technical support. This was already acknowledged here, right? We realized that we are dealing with a talent shortage crisis. This is again coming up. Sanjay, you want to take up that? The lack of billing and flexible payment?
Exactly. I mean, that's the version of the partners, the people who participated in this survey, but our esteemed guests, CIOs, CDOs, CISOs here, they better can explain about it. Maybe offline they can tell. But this is what I can see from a media perspective. Whoever I speak to. Tech is the biggest pre-sale. This is the biggest challenge. Then billing and flexibility. I mean, that's
Sanjay, let me kind of take over from you as brands. And I know it's not just Instasafe here today. There are other Make in India brands here. I think the commitment that every Make in India brand can make to this esteemed audience is to work with partners like you and learn how can we make flexible payment, billing, and subscription options made available, right? I think that is the biggest advantage that when we start, I call it, there are a lot of Make in India brands, Vishalji himself has. Don't you think that India is in the cusp of an indigenization wave? Your mic is switched off.
Hello. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so yes, of course. And, I have one more point before I come to that. And, when we look at MSP market, especially from US and compare it to India, I think there one of the very big dominance is mid-sized players, mid-sized customers which are there. And here I think they rightly told that when we look at 500, and I think we got, reference from other side also saying that, why? Because I think one of the things, common things that I've seen with mid-sized customers and other things which is there, one of the biggest fears for themselves is that how will they do the governance of the services which are being offered, whether they're doing good, bad, ugly. So, for them to safeguard is said, okay, you give me people, they should be sitting in my site, I'll treat it as MSP. That is something, which is which is there. And
That's where the profitability quotient will go down. No, it's not sustainable.
so that is no, but I'm saying that is how the mid-level communications which are happening.
Right.
But when you look at enterprises, and I think our thing is that rather than picking up everything as MSP, we can actually start with what is our core skill and probably start giving that as MSP. That will start to help. Coming down to your question of flexible, payment terms and other things, I think the only problem in that is contract, how we can enforce the contracts which have been done once. I don't think that there's any problem in giving monthly payments, monthly advance payments, monthly delayed payments or other things. I think once we have, we reach that particular point where the contract is signed, and that will be honored both ways, both from the OEM and the customers and the partners. I think that is, so it is more to do with contracting than giving the capability to.
Interesting observation I learned, at least in the Western markets, once a contract is signed, it is honored.
Absolutely. So
Right?
that's why I said the problem is more of a contractual.
Even if there is a monthly, quarterly billing, it will not be stopped.
Yes.
Here it will be questioned. You guys agree there? I mean, we have seen here, at least in India, it can be questioned, like what happened. I
So
think
the
that's
more
where you're
problem
coming
is,
to contracts.
yeah, I think we can work on a lot of these things, especially on the billing payments and other things. And I think partners can actually become far more profitable, if we are able to do that. But I think that's why we all, you, me, try to go and try to do that. You buy first year and you pay upfront and other things. Whereas that, how difficult it is for us to, put it on a monthly basis, because, on our ARR, it will not start to reflect.
Absolutely.
And we have to justify that, we are taking money before and, now counting it in December. So that is something which is difficult. But, so important portion is contracting. I think the problem is more to do with that.
No, absolutely agree. I think collectively as industry, we have to solve it. And so I think only with surfacing these matters, we can go deeper. In the interest of time, we'll move quickly. Sanjay, you want to add something? Yeah? Okay, so then we saw what are the emerging technologies that we see. This is the kind of data that came up. Sanjay, you want to cover that? Data, lake, AI and ML, SOC.
This is pretty in line with the
Pretty
global
much
trend.
self-explanatory,
So
right?
that's also
So-
reflecting in India,
Right.
reflecting with everyone's sentiment. Yeah.
How many of you see a VPN kind of a service thing coming out? I'm curious personally, right? So, do people kind of ask stuff? Is it like help me connect and things like that without a need of a hardware box and all? Right? Okay, fairly a good number of hands. Okay, so now when we kind of summarize, we are done with our surveys, and hopefully the next year it will be even better and a lot more richer. When we understand globally the RMM, PSA, RMM is remote management and PSA is professional services automation. The market is encouraging it about 14% growth, but the brands are not growing. But India is still at the cusp, it looks like. But how will India morph is awaiting to be seen. India is still an early market, and nobody is a pure play MSP in the mid market or the SMB range. And India is still an early market, and partners are prioritizing a shift towards professional managed services in 23. That's what it looks like. Cyber security, SOC, NOC, and all kinds of managed security are very important coming up. And born in the cloud, right? From the cloud, through the cloud, opportunities are galore. And then the final key takeaways, India is the cusp of an MSP, TSP growth opportunity. That's the question. Because, as we spoke about contract management, we just spoke, program management, actually, efficient marketing, the entire value proposition is very hard, because I do not think in India we are as well value articulators. How much of you agree or disagree? Right? Because the struggle that I also see is, while we are good in doing the job, वो बता पाना कि आपका ये फायदा हुआ, ये metrics wise, tangibility लाना, it is very difficult at all sides, not just at our level, the customer level also, to appreciate the fact that मुझे लोग बोलते हैं Instasafe ले लिया तो सब हो गया क्या और कुछ नहीं चाहिए. Very difficult to explain these questions, right? It's not one size fits all, right? So I think program management is an extremely crucial element. I think we are lacking in that area. Probably we should learn from the big guys who are running global operations in India, right? And then we see the whole TCO ROI concept is also pretty fuzzy. On-prem or having a person in site and having remotely done, we still have a long way to go. It looks like we are still not there. Can the Indian data protection law be a driver? I personally believe so, because जब तक pressure नहीं है वो नहीं होता, right? So and once there is a pressure, then hopefully immediately our customers will also start to fall in line and get compliant, right? And eventually the last takeaway here, I'm done with my presentation, Sanjay, last one. See, finally, technology service providers, that's what is the next leap. Managed service providers or value-added resellers, whatever level you want to put them, you just need to go out and that commodity tech business, obviously it has gone down. That should even go down, and getting specialized into line of business leaders, like, you know, Vishalji just now said, each one has its own set of specializations. Somebody is doing remote, somebody is doing security, somebody is doing NOC, somebody is doing backup, anti-ransomware and things like that. If that specialization were to come for and verticalized branding is made possible, we believe that customer retention and profitability goals will be reality. So this has been the summary of our research. Thank you, Sanjay, for the opportunity. And thank you, dear partners, who have taken the time to fill up this survey. Although it is a very early, rudimentary, and I would say pretty much biased to an extent, to the audience extent, but I hope this was helpful to you folks to understand how the market is shaping up. And Sanjay, thanks for creating the entire MSP opportunity. I haven't seen much of MSP discussions in India, I think.
No, I think you triggered everything that we should be doing these kinds of value-based research and surveys.
Right.
And this is the result.
Fantastic. Thank you. And thank you, SIFI, you know, for sponsoring Sanjay. For me, it was more like participating as a community initiative. Really appreciate, and I think with this we have come to an end of our sessions, right? I think the next one is awards. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Really appreciate. I hope you understand, and next year will be even better. Thank you.
Thank you.